Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another ramble. I have been so inconsistent with these, it feels like, and I'm going to try to get back into the groove of things. So if you guys are not already following on Spotify, go check it out. The show links over there. So if you guys are at work or on the road or whatever, you can easily, conveniently listen to all these rambles. But let me know how you guys are all doing. It feels like I haven't been able to communicate with my audience so much lately. So let me know what you guys are all working on down in the comments. In this ramble, I want to talk about my personal stance on dry protection and just drop rates in general on things. I feel like I've talked to so many guests on the Sae Bae cast lately, and based on some of the comments I've received, it feels like people are misinterpreting sort of like where I stand on the matter. And I just like having the conversations with people on what their stances are. And I like kind of kickstarting the conversation. I'll ask them about it because dry protection has always sort of been a hot topic. And I just straight off the bat, I want to say I do not advocate for dry protection, whatever that means. There's like a couple different variations of it. I think the most extreme is when people say, as soon as you hit the drop rate, you should just be able to get the drop, like right on the drop rate, which makes zero sense if you think about it for like more than 3 seconds. Because like, what if there's a boss, hypothetically, that has like 3 drops that are all like 1 in 250? If you don't have any of the 3 drops and you hit kill count 250, are you just like going to get all 3 drops right there? I know, like, and none of you listening agree with that stance. I'm pretty sure, I hope. But there's even people, you know, that want, as soon as you hit the drop rate, for things to continuously just get more and more reasonable. So the drop rate increases over time as soon as you go dry, which makes sense in theory. I just think mechanically, like, how is this going to work? And there's also people that want, so there's like 2 different camps. There's like that camp, and then the less extreme camp of that, where it's like the drop rates, the drier you go, the more common it becomes. I think that's a system that RS3 had. The RS guy actually just commented on one of my videos, and he was just saying, yeah, like there's certain things, I think it's like pets and stuff, that become, like as soon as you pass the drop rate, let's say it was like a 1 in 100, as soon as you pass 100 KC, it becomes 2 in 100. And then when you pass like another, I don't know, 100 KC, it becomes like 3 in 100 or something. So it's just like a very minimal increase over time, which is cool. But that works with like it works with untradables. Mechanically, it works with untradables. As soon as it becomes a tradable and it's affecting the economy, it just doesn't quite compute. And then the other suggestion that people come up with is being able to like guarantee like green logging your log before you get like a duplicate item, which is extreme in my opinion, because yeah, there are certain areas where that can work, like moons of peril. I even think they could rework barrows genuinely. I actually don't see how that would be. I mean, if the community wants it, I'm just throwing that out there. If they were to change barrows overnight and just say, okay, you can't get duplicates anymore, I don't think that would affect anybody personally. Because it feels like all Barrows items are like the same price anyway, more or less. But I like those systems in certain places. I agree with it. But if we're talking like raids and stuff, I feel like there's going to be some manipulation. Somebody in the comments will let me know like how you could abuse that system, basically, where you just get a bunch of people that are just missing like a certain item, basically, and I don't know. I just feel like in like a group setting raid, knowing that this guy cannot get this certain drop would make it so the other people can't get drops. You know what I mean? There's going to be some really fucked up stuff that comes from that. So all that said, there's probably some other random ideas that people have come up with. If you guys have any ideas, let me know down in the comments as well. But where I stand personally, and you guys, a lot of you already know this if you guys have been listening to my content for years, is that I just want reasonable drop rates. That is it. I don't want any sort of system with dry protection. I personally enjoy, and I know a lot of you guys, and let me also say this, a lot of my audience are more elite players. I say that because I started my YouTube channel with like high-end Iron Man rambles, like super monotone rambles of just talking about my account and like 1 hour long skilling videos with no audio or like just music, you know, playing. That is not like a casual experience for a lot of people. So I feel like my audience is definitely like skewed toward more elite players. I still obviously have a vast audience with players of all types, especially over the years. I feel like a lot more like casual players and just like the average player are listening to my stuff more and more. So I'm throwing that out there because I feel like some of the time the comments can be a little bit like not accurate or not giving exactly the stance that the average player would give. Like I don't even know if, I don't know, is Reddit the average player? Who knows? Anyway, all I'm trying to say is that where I stand with any sort of dry protection or drop rates is just have reasonable drop rates. And I feel like by saying that, people are going to want specifics. And I have provided specifics over the years with like a certain amount of hours. And so I want to differentiate what I mean by like items that should have this in effect. So anything that's cosmetic, third age, pets, random cosmetics from clues, or just anything, I don't know, like jars and stuff. None of this stuff is included in this. So all of that stuff can be as rare as Jagex fucking wants it to be rare. Like honestly, the Helmet of the Moon, that shit could have been a 1 in a bajillion. I do not give a fuck because it's just not relevant and it's just something shiny that people can have. And I honestly, like, I would actually kind of like it if Jagex came out with more just really stupidly absurd shit like the Helmet of the Moon, just so it becomes very clear to players that collection log is not a completion log. It is a collection log. It's something that's not supposed to be completed. And if you come out with some just super fucking ridiculous things, I think people will start understanding, oh, this isn't a completable thing. But I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy for thinking that. Maybe I'm like the minority and people do want the collection log to be completed, which, by the way, it'll only be completed for a little bit until some other clue update comes out and then you have to recomplete it. But that's besides the point. So all of those cosmetics aside, I'm not talking about those. I think those can be as rare as Jagex ever wants. I am talking about items that are improving your PVM gameplay. So items that have stats, new best in slots, anything like that, raids items that have just meaningful gear progression is what I'm talking about. So any sort of item that's armor and weapons, I just feel like I'm trying to categorize this. There's some gray areas with this, like for example, like Dragonstone armor, that's a cosmetic, that's not like an armor. But you guys know what I'm talking about. All those things, I think I said multiple years ago that the absolute cap that an item, like the rarity, the hour cap of the rarity of an item should not surpass 250 efficient hours. I have now changed my mind on that to 150 hours. And the reason I've changed it to 150 hours, it's just decreased, is because of just the sheer amount of content that is in the game these days and how much more will continually come into the game. So I genuinely think that no item, again, gear progression item, I'm not talking cosmetics, pets can be as rare as you guys want them to be. But actual gear items, things that are improving your arsenal, your gear progression, no item should be more than 150 efficient hours to grind. That's where I personally stand. So I'm not for any sort of dry protection or any weird mechanic like that. I actually kind of like the old school nature of being able to go extremely dry. But I think the absolute rarest anything should ever be in this game, like a T-bow or a scythe or a shadow or any mega rare in the future, should never surpass 150 hours. Now, it's just because of just the sheer amount of content. Like we were having a different conversation back in like 2017, like when Chambers first came out. Like there was a different conversation to be had because you had one raid, you had like very few pieces of content. So when it comes to raids, I seriously think like, and there's a whole nother discussion to be had about raids. I think Chambers right now is in the weirdest spot ever, where there's like, you can't even just enjoy a classic solo or trio because the amount of scaling that's in play, you're basically just wasting a fuck ton of time doing like classic raids because there's things as like 3+12s and mega scales and all this other weird shit that people are doing where you just get way more points per hour, which, again, another conversation to be had. I would love to talk to some players that are maybe against that system or really for that system that like it. I just think it's bizarre. I think like every sort of scale should be roughly the same amount of points you can get per hour. it's obviously not going to equal. There will always be a meta, but I think Chambers is just in this weird spot just because it can scale so awkwardly. It's just like doing solos or doing classic trios is just such a fucking waste of time, which is just sad because if for an average player that's jumping into raids 1, it feels like you should be rewarded for your time, and they are just not going to understand the metas of bringing 12 fucking alts in here to improve your drop chance by 50%. Who knows? Maybe that's part of what people want in the game. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that any further. So we have Chambers. It's always been a big issue. I think there's so many things we could change with that, like CMs, for example, not giving the prayer scrolls. And again, separate conversation. I'm just kind of like hitting general points. And I'm going to list like just a few different things that are the main offenders, in my opinion, which is Chambers of Xeric, Nightmare. I could go on and on about Nightmare. They've made like 7 or 8 different iterations of buffs over the last like 5 fucking years, 6 years, whenever that came out. And it's still absurd. That's insane to me. That is insane that you buff this place. You probably like multiply the commonality of these items. Like I think the commonality, okay, if you exclude the jar, I think the jar is still fucked. But like other than that, like just looking at items, I think it's genuinely like 5 times fewer hours to green log Nightmare excluding jar than it was on release. I remember on release day, Nightmare, it was like people calced it. It was 6,500 efficient hours to green log Nightmare. That is absurd. Like we could all pretty much agree. There is a certain amount, there's a threshold of hours that becomes too absurd. There's a lot of people that will argue in my comments or just like shout in the comments. They're not even arguing with anybody. They're just shouting in there. And they will say like, you chose Iron Man, you need to suffer, or like just the drop rates are the drop rates. They should never be changed. It's like this really like weird dogmatic view of like whatever came into the game is perfection and it should never be changed. Like for those people, if they were to come out with listen, actually, this is a great example. Omelet, like when Omelet first dropped, it was 10 times more rare than it actually was, and there were some lucky motherfuckers that actually pulled the Omelet when it was 10 times more rare. Do you think, and just till the end of time, like that's perfect, whatever they fucking came out with, even if it was bugged drop rates, perfect? No, like there is a certain almost any sane rational person could agree that there is a certain limit of hours where things become too absurd for a video game. If an item in this game came out and it was 3,500 hours for a mega rare, we could just kind of all agree like, okay, this is probably not healthy for the game. I don't know, like maybe there's a few people that would think that's totally cool, but there's a certain amount of hours where it just becomes like not fun and just ridiculous, and it would almost just be trolling. Anybody that would agree to that would basically just be trolling. Again, the cosmetics aside, I'm talking about like actual upgrades. So we're just talking about hours. Like, what is the inappropriate hours? Is it 500 hours for a T-bow efficiently? Is that appropriate? Is it 5,000 hours? Is it 50,000 hours? What if it was 50,000 hours? I'm only bringing these extreme examples up to say for those people that comment, there is a certain range where things should hit. And in my opinion, it's 150 hours as the rarest that anything should ever be. So Chambers, Nightmare. They've even buffed it, so it's a 1 in 113 for any item right now, and they slashed a phase, so the fight's faster, and you get the sleepy tablet faster, and it's still out of control. I would honestly be okay if Nightmare was a 1 in 50 for a drop, and they could kind of balance how the orbs are dropped and whatever else. But a 1 in 50 would actually be a reasonable, enjoyable grind that's almost like a side quest for accounts that don't want the best in slot. Like Inquisitors is not even good these days. The one niche use it had was like being able to hit Dragon Warhammers better, more accurately. And now we have a fucking Yama horn. That shit just guarantees your hammers. So Inquisitors, and you got to keep in mind, in the next 5 years, Inquisitors is going to be even fucking worse unless they start buffing the stuff. Who knows? Maybe there's going to be like some fortified version. But as of right now, it's just not good, and it's going to continually get worse and worse and worse. So yeah, like Nightmare is a big thing. Next, I want to touch on just lightly. There are broader issues with God Wars Dungeon. I just talked about it with Tasty Life, and I've been talking about it with a lot of guests on the Sae Bae cast, just talking about like KCs and ecumenical keys and ecumenical key shards and like just other little weird annoyances, like just hopping for KCs feels very archaic. This again, separate conversation we can have. I'm open-minded to what changes could be made, and if the whole community's like, nope, God Wars is perfect, never fucking change it. It's a remnant of the past, then cool. Like, we can talk about that. But when it comes to Nex, I do think the armor, Torva, is just slightly more rare than it needs to be, personally. So right now, getting a Torva piece is a 1 in 258, so getting a specific piece. And you're not soloing that shit. You're mostly, doing duos or trios or 4-mans or up to like 6-man. Some crazy people are massing. I think they don't understand how bad that is to mass Nex. But in my opinion, I just think a slight buff to that is like a 1 in 200. So like going from like a 1 in 58 to a 1 in 200, I would shut up about Nex, basically. And then if you made some God Wars dungeon changes, that'd be nice. But really, the only real issue is just the competition with Oathplate. I think Oathplate and Torva are just in these weird things where like you just so easily grind Oathplate. Oathplate still takes a long time to get, but it's just such a small... It's like there's not really much gatekeeping. You just complete, you get 1 synapse from after Walguthic sleeps, and then you're pretty much like good to go. So, and Nex requires so much if you want to efficiently grind it. So I just think a slight buff to the Torva. You don't need to change the hilt or the horn or anything else, but Torva, I think. And plus you need Bandos. And I'm kind of looking at through an Iron Man's lens a little bit, where I'm looking at through everybody's lens for this case, but for Iron Man especially, like you have Oathplate and you just get it. You're good. You can wear it. With Torva, even if you got Torva somehow, you win early, you'd still have to grind out Bandos, and that's a whole nother set of hours you need to grind it out. So anyway, so we have Chambers, Nightmare, Nex, and here's just some other fun ones I just wanted to bring up, which is Worms with the Dragon Harpoon. Who the fuck decided that the Dragon Harpoon should be 1 in 10,000? A fucking Visage rate. Now, to be fair, it is a 1 in 2,000 on task, but I think I'm 97 Slayer on this account, and I think I've killed like 600 worms. Like, I'm almost 99 Slayer. I haven't even hit half the drop rate of, and I do my worm tasks. I haven't even hit half the drop rate of going for a Dragon Harpoon, which feels like a mid-level sort of upgrade. Something went devastatingly wrong when we decided that Slayer uniques should be more rare than a 1 in 512. The 1 in 512, Andrew fucking Gower is a legend for that. That is such a sweet spot. It's such a sweet spot for a classic sort of Slayer mob to drop something unique. And we started going off the deep end with the fucking 1 in 1,000 for a Basilisk Jaw, which, by the way, just looks... that did not age well, especially because now you have like the Oathplate helmet, which is better across the board. And why even go for like a Jaw? Why spend the Slayer points to unlock Basilisks just so you can grind this piece of shit Jaw that's a 1 in 5,000 off task and a 1 in 1,000 on? And then you go 2 times rate. It's just like, this is so fucking pointless. If that had been a 1 in 512 and it wasn't 5 times more rare off task, that would have been a perfect sweet spot. But no. And the same thing goes with the Dragon Harpoon. A 1 in 2,000 on task is so fucking psychotic. It's psychotic. And that shit does never needed to be that rare, honestly. That should have been a 1 in 512. And at the very, like, rarest, a 1 in 1,000, and it should not have been any different on or off task, in my personal opinion. Like, come on. Anyway, the last one I'll say is Bloodshards. I'm going to just very, very briefly touch on this. Pickpocketing, it should not have been 1 in 5,000. Who the fuck came out with that number? Because now it's gospel. I hate it. I hate that somebody just decided it was 1 in 5,000 and now it's gospel. It's just like, why? If they had said 1 in 3,000, that would have been gospel. Why didn't you just from the get-go say 1 in 3,000? That's still incredibly fucking rare. It's a little bit shorter than a full work day, 8 hours spam clicking, and then you go 5 times rate and you're looking at a full work week just to grind out 1 fucking pixel item. I guess you get 2 if you're wearing Rogue's outfit, but 1 in 3,000, like, if we just change it to that. I know they're coming out with a new vampire quest, and we're going to be getting hopefully some like version of getting Bloodshards. People have been demanding Bloodshards drop from like TOB or Fasani's Nightmare. That would be amazing. If If Bloodshards came to Fasani's, that you know what? I would say you wouldn't even need to buff the Fasani's drop table. If you just gave out like a 1 in like 50 Bloodshard, oh, holy fuck. Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be so glorious. But the other thing I want on the Bloodshard, so 1 in 3,000 for pickpockets, a buff from 1 in 5,000. And then right now, getting a Bloodshard from Vire Sentinels is 1 in 1,500. Again, who the fuck came out with this number? Why isn't it just 1 in 512 like any other sane drop table? But if we're so set on the 1,500, that's cool because there's a lot of bots that are farming it. Make it at least so it's on task. It's 5 times more common. So the real players, no bots, are doing Slayer for Vire tasks. No bots are doing that shit. They're just going to camp it repeatedly. It wouldn't be worth their time. Or their bot's going to be fucking insane. But I just think if you're a real legitimate player that gets a Vire task, you should be able to get a 5 times multiplier on a Bloodshard on task. That would be so cool. I've said this before, but I feel like I was always sort of against that 5 times multiplier being on task. But the thing that changed my mind was Revenants. Revenants, them making it so Rev weapons were 5 times more common on task was a good call. I have to admit, it was a good call because it makes it so getting a Revenant task is like it's just sweet nectar. It's just the greatest thing you can see from Cristelia, especially if you're an Iron Man or just any clogger just going for a Rev weapon. Like, it's fucking glorious getting that. It feels so good getting that task. It would be the same thing you could do so simply by and Vires are an unlockable task. You have to unlock it in the first place. If that shit was a 1 in 300 for a Bloodshard, that means like basically just over a task, if you slaughtered it, for example, would almost give you a Bloodshard. And those tasks are not that common. So like, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Anyway, so overall, the biggest offenders, and I would say the exclusive offenders, are just chambers, drop rates. Again, there's so much more conversation with that. It's not as simple as just buffing it. It's like CMs and just like the scaling and everything else. Nightmare, Nex, just barely, just buff Torva a little bit just to compete with Oathplate in my opinion. Worms and Bloodshards. That's pretty much the worst offenders. There's probably a few others that come to mind. I mean, I mentioned the Jaw, but like, yeah, like the Jaw could obviously have some work. There's just little outliers and stuff, but again, the main offenders. And yeah, so that's where I fall with the dry protection / drop rates. I just want reasonable stuff. I want things to feel good going for. I don't want things to be too psychotic. I am not a player that's trying to drastically destroy the game and make it easy escape. There's people that are like super fear mongering in my comments that are like freaking the fuck out and like accusing me of like burning out or something. I've been saying the same shit for like 6 fucking years. Like when I was the most fucking addicted to my account, I put in like 3 years of like nonstop playtime into RuneScape. I'm still playing a shit ton. I have 111 days played on this account, and this account I haven't even had for a year yet. Like, I'm playing this game a lot. I'm cool with grinding stuff. Trust me, I can grind. I'm looking out for the health of the game. It's cool. It feels so good when you have something like Royal Titans come out in the game. And it's not just a fucking disaster grinding it. Like, this is actually reasonable drop rates that you can reasonably grind in a week. Like, if you just go hard on it, like, you can get it. In a weekend, if you get lucky, you can get stuff. Like, that shit feels so good. Yama did a really good job. I would argue their 30% nerf to the drops kind of sucked, but it was because of Torva. Torva's the reason that we couldn't have those really solid, appropriate drop rates. And that's why I'm kind of like calling for just tone everything back, like make everything a little bit more reasonable on that super outlying end. So anyway, I just love it when updates come out and it feels good. It feels like you can get stuff. It feels like it's valuing your time. I love RuneScape. I love the grind of it. We have hundreds of fucking pieces of content these days where so many different unique drops, and it's like it's going to keep expanding. We don't want like multiple items across the game to be like 200 300 hours that are just, it gets absurd. It genuinely gets absurd. So again, my philosophy, I'll say this one last time, is just make drops reasonable, make it value the player. if you're a super elite player that has put in 30,000 hours on this account, you have to take a more empathetic look at the average player that's working full time, that has some kids now, because we're all entering our 30s or in our 30s or 40s. I just turned 30 for those curious. But we're living our lives. Like we don't have unlimited time to play this game. So just make it value people's times. This game can still be super grindy. I love the grindiness. I think skills, like skilling XP rates, should always sort of stay. There should always just be little incremental buffs as updates continue to come out. But I am never an advocate for just saying, yeah, like buff agility 2 times just because we're all sick of doing it. Make agility more fun. Make rune crafting, like just add fun. Like I want skilling to be fun. I'm going on to the whole nother topic right here, so I'm going to try not to. But I love the grind. I love RuneScape for the grind. I love that journey. But a journey does not need to be grind this item that's 500 hours to get 1 pixel item. It's just absurd because it doesn't end at 500 hours. That's what the average is. You have people that will go 8 times the rate. I have seen so many players that did you guys remember that dude 7 that got like banned on his account for like doing the Toa bug? I made like a video of him and Coxie or whatever, that like were cheating or something. I don't think Coxie got banned for that. I'm trying to remember the whole situation. But 7 was the guy that went like 3,900 CG for 1 enhanced seed. That shit happens to real players. That shit happens where you go 9 times the rate of something absurd. I didn't even throw in CG right now in this discussion, but I would be okay if the enhanced was just like a 1 in 256 or 1 in 300, just so it's like it equals out to 6 armor seeds as 1 enhanced seed. Like I even think it was just a 1 in 300 from 1 in 400. That would be like, boom, perfection. But you just have to keep in mind, people will go super stupid dry. And I can already hear the people saying, you chose to limit yourself. It's not about the limiting yourself. It's about just respecting your players, respecting people's time and effort into this game. There are people that quit this game over not being able to get a certain item. Like, that's absurd. It's a video game. This is not real life. Like, it's a fucking video game. You should be able to reasonably, like, go for something and not feel like it's an absolute impossibility. That's so dumb. Again, cosmetics, you can have that be an impossibility. If you wanted to grind out full 30 druidic, yeah, that should be impossibility. That should be an impossibility because it is meant to be. That's stupid, super stupid rare stuff. But again, gear upgrades, it should never be that absurd. My opinion. Again, this whole thing is my opinion. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Thank you all for listening. I love you guys so much. Check out this Sae Bae Rambles on Spotify. It greatly helps me if you guys follow the show. Drop a little comment, rate it. Thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.